Hello and welcome to Craft Habit How To. Today I'm going to walk you through the steps to make a pom-pom and tassel garland. This is a kit that we sell for our website and some local retailers. It's got instructions in it, but I'm making a video to go along with it because sometimes that's a good way to learn. So I'm going to start off with page 1, how to make a tassel. So in your kit you have got a little card like this. It says lay short strand across here and long strands around. So we're going to use that to make our tassels. There's other ways to do it, but I thought that was a good way to try it out. So to make a tassel, you're going to choose 6 strands of yarn. You've got 4 different colors of yarn, all in long strands. I've chosen, or 7 strands of yarn. I've chosen 3 of this teal and 4 of the citron. So we're going to take one of those strands. I'm going to grab one of my citron strands. The first thing I'm going to do is take this strand and cut it in half. So instead of one long strand, you'll have 2 shorter strands. So we will cut that in half. And I'll move some things out of the way here. So with one of those short strands, you're going to lay it across here. If you want to, there's little notches you can notch it in here. It doesn't have to notch very far. Just kind of helps it sit like that. Get it centered, but it doesn't have to be too centered, so don't worry about how many inches are on each side. It'll be fine. Then I'm going to take my 6 strands of yarn that are left. So I've got my 3 citron here and my 3 teal. I'm going to put those together and get those ends pretty close. My long stuff. And I'm going to start wrapping. I want the loose ends to start down there on the opposite side of where the short strand is. I'm going to hold those in place and just start to wrap these around. And once you've got it wrapped once, it'll hold those other strands in place. So you can let go of that. And I'm going to keep wrapping until I've got those long strands wrapped most of the way around. So you can see on the back they sort of come down, not quite to the bottom of the card, but that is okay. So I'll turn to the front. I'm going to take my short strands that are here, unhook them, and we're going to use these to tie the top of the tassel. So you can kind of just actually hold it like this, let it hang down, start like you're tying a shoe. We'll do a square knot. We'll do that once, pull that nice and tight so it's holding all the strands together. We'll do it one more time to make the square knot. Pull that nice and tight. And now these strands that you tied with, I'm going to tie off, and so I've got a little bit of a loop at the top, because this is what we're going to use to hang the tassel on the garland later. So I'm just going to tie that like this, so I've got a little bit of space right here between the top of the tassel and this knot. And then I'm going to trim that. So the next step is to wiggle these strands off this card. Just going to kind of push, and then holding by the top there, we're going to cut these looped bits. So you can get in there with your scissors. Sometimes you can catch them all at the same time. Sometimes you got to check and see if there's any extra loops in there. And there's not, so that's cut. Now we're going to pick up the second half, the second short strand from when we cut that strand in half before. I'm going to lay it down, lay your tassel down so there's a little bit of space between the tie and the bottom here. You don't want it right at the top. And again, we're going to tie a square knot. So tie once, and you see it's just a little bump up top. Once there, and then once more to make a square knot. And then we'll do the wrap of the tassel. So we're still going to use these long strands. You can pick either one to start. I'm going to start wrapping around. You can pull kind of tight as you go. Wrap till you've got about an inch left here. You can grab your other strand and start wrapping that one. Again, you want to wrap it until it's got about an inch left. What you want is these 2 to be long enough to tie together. I've made this pretty tight. It's challenging to tie, but you can always make your wrap a little bit smaller if you want to. Either way, it will hold together. So I'm going to make another square knot once and again. So that is tied. I can snip off the extra bits. And there we've got a tassel. So this one, if you want to go through and trim it all the same length, you can. I kind of like it to have a little bit of that messy personality. So there's one of my tassels. Here's one I made earlier that's just a solid color, and I chose a contrasting color to tie it up. So these are 2 of them. In this kit, you can make about 4 or 5 tassels, and we'll make 6 pom-poms to go on the garland. So I'm going to set these aside. There you go, pops. And next up, we're going to make a pom-pom. So in your kit, you'll have a pom-pom maker like this. It might be green or it might be yellow. This is from a company called Clover, and it is my favorite way to make pom-poms. So I'll show you, it's got 4 arms. You can see with these little things here, that's 1, 2, and if you flip it over, 3, 4. So now they're all open. What I usually do is start with 2 of them open together, so they should make a smile or a rainbow, depending on how you're looking at it. So that's where we're going to start. So we need, for our pom-poms, we need 8 to 12 strands of yarn. The more yarn you use, the denser your pom-pom will be. If you use less yarn, it'll be a little more floofy like this. So I've already done some pom-poms in my solid colors, and now I'm going to do one where I've got the colors all mixed together. I call this style confetti, because when it's all done, you'll see it's got little pops of color all over it. So I have chosen, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, that's my other one. That's it. That's my other 6 strands. So I'm going to do 6 strands on each side, so that's 12 altogether. So I'm going to put half of these aside. The other half, like I did before, I'm going to put the ends close together, get them sort of lined up. And this is just to start, and also you will see that your strands of yarn, when you match one end, the other ends are not going to all match up. They're all slightly different, and that is okay. But with my matched ends and 2 legs of my pom-pom maker open that are matching each other, and they both loop in the same way, I'm going to lay this over this center curve. And I like to get my fingers back here and just sort of hold it right there. And then I'm going to start wrapping. So we're wrapping around both these legs on this central curve. And look at this way, it looks like a rainbow. And you want to wrap your yarn over the curved part, but not under the edges of the legs. You might catch a little bit, but that's okay. You can always uncatch it. So we're going to wrap and wrap and wrap. You want to make sure you're covering all of the arch. And back and forth so it gets fairly even. And it's fine to have these little bits hanging off the edge. So once you've wrapped that as much as it will go, then we take these 2 strands and we fold them into the middle, and this contraption is going to hold it together for us. So now other 2 strands open, the 2 legs. I'm going to get my next 6 strands, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's 6. And I'm going to start wrapping these. Again, I'm going to lay it across, hold it with a finger while I start wrapping. Once it's been wrapped a couple times, you can let go. The yarn's going to hold itself on there. And so I'm wrapping and wrapping around the rainbow. So sometimes just you'll get a little piece caught over here, but you just push it back. Keep wrapping and close that up. Now there's one more thing we need to make this pom-pom. We need 1 more strand of yarn, but short. So if you've got a leftover strand from when you made a tassel before, or you just want to pull one of your extra strands out, you can do that. So I'm going to do the same thing before where I cut it in half. And I'll set one of these aside for another pom-pom for later. So we've got the short strand, we've got the yarn wrapped all around our pom-poms. Now we're going to cut. So if you look on the side, you'll see there's sort of a space between the two halves. We're going to get some nice sharp scissors, get them in there, and just start slicing right down the middle. And once you've made a couple cuts, you can see that that trough kind of goes all the way across the top. You want to check and make sure you don't have any little tiny strings in the way. Nope. And we'll flip it and do the same thing on the other side. So start in here and start trimming all the way across the top. I'm going to check. I don't have any. Oh, I do. I have one stray strand, so I'm going to get in there and clip that one. All right. So now it looks like this. Kind of reminds me of like a little macaroon. And it can balance there, which is nice. Take your short piece of yarn, and we're going to do this. We're going to floss it down between there. It's going to fit inside, and flip it. Pull these pieces up, and again, they're going to kind of floss in between those two halves of the pom-pom maker. And now we tie our favorite square knot again. So once like this, you're going to want to pull pretty hard here. This is important. This is what is holding the whole pom-pom together. So kind of hard once. And then you do one more time to make your square knot. All right, now we can open this up. So we've got these four legs again. We're going to open them up. 1, 2. If you flip it over, the other two are there. 3, 4. So now pom-pom maker looks like this. These two white discs, you can kind of grab them and pull them apart like that. And here is your pom-pom. You just gotta flip it. Flip it a little bit, and then you can go in. If there's any really long strands, you can trim those off, or you can let them be and have a nice organic messy pom-pom. Tell you that once you start trimming, sometimes it's hard to stop, so I usually stop myself pretty quickly, otherwise my pom-pom will get smaller and smaller the more I trim. But you can get a little floof in your hands. I like leaving the long strand on for now. We'll trim it later when we put the pom-pom garland together, but it is useful later in the process, so I like to leave it there. So there, got my confetti pom-pom. I'm going to pause this, make one more pom-pom and a few more tassels, and I'll come back and show you how to put the whole thing together. Alright, so now I've got 4 tassels and 6 pom-poms, and I'm ready to put this thing together. If you end up with more pom-poms or tassels or fewer, that's fine too, but your kit is enough to make this and have a little bit of yarn left over. So I'm going to get out my needle and this cord that we're going to use to put the whole thing together. This should already be threaded in your kit, which is nice. You may have a plastic needle, you might have a metal one. Either way, it's not sharp on the end. And this unrolls. There's about 6.5 feet in here. There should be a loop tied in one end already, so you can hang that on the wall. So this is going to be the far end. So I'm going to start with this pom-pom. And this is the reason that I leave the tails on. When you string the pom-pom, you want to make sure that you're going this way so that you go through that loop of string that is holding the pom-pom together. So when I leave the long strand on, it makes it easier for me to find that string and make sure that my needle is going through this way. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just kind of get it right through the middle. Sometimes when you pull through, it might bring a strand or two of yarn with it like that. That is okay. There are so many strands in there, it's not going to miss it. So I'm going to pull that through. Bring my thread all the way down. So there I've got one pom-pom on there. If I want to go ahead now and trim these extra long strands, I can, because the pom-pom's on. So there's one on there. I'm going to do a tassel next, and the tassels are easy because you just go through that little loop you made. So that's going on. Pull my string down. Now you might want to lay out your pom-poms and tassels and figure out an order and everything before you do this. I am just sort of winging it. I think it's going to turn out all right. So now I'm going to do, I think I'll do my confetti pom-pom now. So this is the one I call confetti because all the colors kind of pop out together. So here we go. Here is the strand that goes around, kind of the belt that holds the pom-pom all together. So I'm going to make sure that I go through. Sorry for that little jump, had to free up some space on my phone, but I've gone ahead and put the rest of the pom-poms and tassels on. You can see these move very easily along the strand, so depending on where you hang it, if you need them to be closer together, if you want them to be closer, farther apart, you can do that. You can always take them off and restring them in a new order if you want to. But now, I've got a pom-pom tassel garland to hang anywhere you'd like.